Hi and welcome. I'm Sher, the Shadow Walker, and today I'd like to talk to you about Bigfoot. Several years ago, I had an experience as a psychic. I consider myself gifted. I don't say the word psychic. And the Bigfoot spoke to me through Mindspeak. So tonight I'd like to talk to you about just how many people have seen and had experiences like mine or other types of experiences, and when was the first experience. So yesterday I looked up some facts. I've never looked up facts on Bigfoot before, and frankly, probably only the last 6 months I've actually even looked up anything on a Bigfoot. So the first recorded was a footprint, and that was in Jasper, Alberta, and that was in 1811. The first media printed encounter was in 1848, and that was in Yale, BC. And they called it the Jackal. And the name Bigfoot was coined in Humboldt County, California in 1958. Patterson Gremlin in 1967 in Bluff Creek. That was an actual sighting. Now, the Canadian connection, I don't know if a lot of you know, but Canada has the early entries are all Canadian. From 1811 was Thompson's Tracks to 1929, which was Burns in St. Ailes, BC. The name Sasquatch came from the First Nations, St. Isles. Both spiritual and physical is what they believed, and I believe too. Now, Psychic Mind Speak, the first one was Jacques Lasperez, and that was in 1970 to now. He said that through telepathy, they gave him a warning. Hundreds of other people have experienced the same thing. In fact, psychic connection and cloaking is 15% of all experiences people have with Bigfoot. And I find that fascinating. Now, I don't know, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who haven't said, but I myself have not spoke to anyone about Bigfoot up until now. I wrote a book about it. I did it as a fiction because I felt that fiction was the best way to go to explain everything. And so then I started looking up some facts yesterday, and I was fascinated by them. So in Traverse Bay, Newfoundland, in 1913, the Hairy Man sighting. And that sighting occurred for over 2 years in an entire community. And I believe that that sighting, as do many others, was because there was peril in the world at that time. And that's why the Guardian, which is what I call the Bigfoot, came. I believe that we have, as a gifted, as a psychic, what I see many times is it animal? No. So I believe we came from another planet, which is what they told me. So I tried to write everything down in my novel as best I could in a fiction fact way for people to understand. Thank you, Mary. Let me see, where was I? So in 1924, Albert Ostman in BC, he was kidnapped, and he said that they used telepathy or mind speak. I call it waves to talk to you. So the guardians have been from 1800s to 1900s. And I wrote my book not knowing any of this because where I was, I didn't have internet, so I didn't have any of this information. One of the most fascinating pieces of information that I was able to get was in regards to 1000 AD, one of the earliest sightings, and its earliest recorded. And it was by Leif Erikson and Norris Crew. That was his Viking ship. And they were from Greenland, and they landed in Vinland, which is now Newfoundland, at the Bays of Meadows. They called the Bigfoot Sellering or hairy, black-eyed, and they said they had an unearthly howl, and they do. I believe they came during the Great Depression. There was numerous sightings. The Dust Bowl was at that time. There was drought everywhere. And the Bigfoot, or the guardians, as I call them, wanted to protect the old forests, which, you know what, stands to reason. We lose way too much of what we need. And if we don't keep it, what are we going to have left for our children? So, of course, we need a guardian since we're not managing things ourselves. Not in the way they should be. Humans destroyed the soil at that time, that Dust Bowl. So, of course, we had to keep those old forests to keep that beautiful soil that we needed for people were starving then. And then there was 1945 when the A-bomb, right? The atomic bomb. There was a lot of sightings then too. And the start of the Cold War. So out through history, whenever there is turbulence in the world, we have Bigfoot sightings or the guardians. Now, a lot of people will see a guardian and they will see what they call orbs. Well, those type of orbs that the Bigfoot use are interdimensional portals. And they are opened if they need other guardians to come through at that time. They can disappear and they can reappear in a flash. I do believe you should not follow them. In history, when Thompson was going through the Athabascan route to find a pass through, he had the Iroquois with him and the Kootenai. And when Thompson found this print, his scientific mind took hold and he said, no, this is a bear. And he had to discredit his fact that it was a bear. He knew it wasn't a bear print. He'd seen numerous bear prints. And the Iroquois guide told him that they will not follow those tracks. They will not track the Bigfoot. The Bigfoot is something that you cannot follow. They cloak. So that's back in history where that's reported. So there's so many people around the world that have seen this. So I looked at a lot of statistical information on Canada, on North America, and on the world to see where everything had come from. And I found fascinating information about things such as the Yeti in 1919 in Lawrence Wild Himalayas, and the Yowie in Australia, and that was a printed recording, and that was in 1759. Canada has the most early detailed records of everything. Anytime that humanity is in a peril, you will see more of them come. If the world was run without weapons, without war, there would be less sightings, I do believe. But we're seeing more and more sightings. We're seeing more phenomenal weather events happen. We're seeing more social unrest in the world. And this is causing the sightings. So they've increased their monitoring of Earth, just like any guardian would of something they care so much about. And they consider Earth and the people on it, all the people, their children. And their children aren't getting along. And they're destroying the beautiful land that they have to live on. So I think it's really important for all of us to take a step back, and to be mindful is one of the things that you need to be about your environment, your surroundings, what you use, what you do. And, if you are going out into the woods and you see a Bigfoot track, it's a gift, but don't follow it. That's not something you should. At that time, there's been recorded cases that people who go to follow them, there'll be a massive snowstorm or a rainstorm, and people will lose their lives. So it is, somebody always gets hurt when they're out there hunting Bigfoot. Bigfoot doesn't need to be hunted. The guardian does not need to be hunted. They're here when we need them. They are here to help us when we're being, what I'd say, careless as humans. And, it seems that more and more those that run the countries around the world are being careless. You're looking at corporate greed, oligarchs, and we're seeing that happen now. So there are more sightings now. So, a lot of people will say, well, I don't believe in them. Well, sorry, but I don't care. They're there. The guardians are there. They're there for a reason. Okay. The fact that they have been recorded in history is something that you cannot dispute. And the fact that people are still seeing them. Now, the frequency has increased, and depending on where you live in the world, there are far more sightings. Now, there's different classifications for sightings too. Like a class A is a visual, a class B is a footprint, hair, a nest, or a moonlight sighting. And a class C is mind speak, and cloaking, which I have experienced. In 1970s, the massive boom that the world experienced, there was more sightings in North America. There's a lot of statistical facts on things. So when you look at the facts in the provinces of Canada, okay, what I have found is in BC, there was stats that 135 sightings. In Ontario, there was 68 sightings. In Alberta, has been 43 sightings. In Manitoba, there was 31. Saskatchewan, there was 7. New Brunswick, there was 8. Quebec, there was 4. Nova Scotia, where I have my sighting, there's 3. Now, you have to keep in mind when I'm saying this to you that I didn't report my sighting. So, in the Yukon, there was 5. Newfoundland, there was 2 or more sightings. Nunavut, there has not been any recorded sightings. I believe for every 1 sighting, there could be another 50 or more, 50 to 100 sightings that aren't spoken of. And specifically because of the stigma, which we can all understand that there is a stigma about everything. There shouldn't be, but there is. The The United States, because it's larger, Washington has 710 sightings, although you're going to multiply that by 100 or 50. You're going to look at Florida had, and keep in mind to multiply this, Florida had 340, California had 460, Ohio had 315, Oregon had 260, Texas has 255, Illinois has 200 plus, Georgia has 195, Michigan has 185, and Pennsylvania has 175. So you can see you're going to take those numbers and you're going to multiply them by 50 to 100 sightings or more that we haven't heard about because people aren't speaking about it. Although a lot of people do believe these days, and a lot of people have seen Bigfoot, the Guardian. It's funny, you know, there was the phrase Sasquatch, there was the phrase Bigfoot, but when I had my encounter, when we had our encounter, my husband and I, the Guardian is what I got. So when you're looking at names, the names Bigfoot, that comes from Earth people. And when they spoke to me, they said, she said, Anjou said it was the Guardian. So I am your guardian. I am the guardian of the world. To me, that makes total sense. It's sad that we need something like that to help us, but it is wonderful that we have our guardians. There are so many more facts about Bigfoot that we need to look at. And I would love if you've had a sighting to contact me. Flip the boards, please. Put that one up. So that we could talk about it. So there's certain times like when the humanity has been in perils, like, you know, atomic bomb, and like I spoke about before. So there was recorded in 1959 in household named in California. There was a massive amount of UFO sightings at that time. So that all correlates. It's not necessary that they have to come down on some sort of spaceship. As a psychic or a gifted, what I see is planes, energy planes. So when you die, your energy or your soul will go to a plane. Now, if you're just a normal person, you may make mistakes in life, but you're just a normal person, you're going to go to that regular plane. But if you're not, your energies are really dark and really negative, and you have red rummed people, they would go to a different, darker plane. And those negative energies could come back as demons, as I've spoke before to people about and on other lives. Spirits, ghosts will come back. They're not going to attack you. But if they have negative energies, you're not looking at a negative spirit, you're looking at a demon. I don't go by the Catholic way, even though I was raised Catholic. I just go by what I know and what I've learned from spirits and what I've learned from the Bigfoot or the Guardian. So if anybody has any questions, I would love you to put something up there in the chat as a question. So in Mount St. Helen erupted in 1980. And the strange thing about that is, so it wiped out 230 square foot miles of wilderness. And there are records that reports that actually sightings of Bigfoots walking out of that. The Native people, or depending on where you are in the world, the First Nations people here believe that they are sacred, spiritual, here to protect us and to be respected. And they believe at one time we were closer. And I do too. In the beginning, I believe that probably they were here to help. And as society started to grow, as it was such way back when, that they backed off like any good parent would. Now I find that they need, we need our parents back basically. So our guardians have come back. Um, Sorry, I'm just reading what somebody put the text. So when I wrote my book, I hadn't done any of this research. I had just had my encounter. So this is my novel, Bigfoot, and it's called Bigfoot My Guardian. And so I tried to gel what I was told by the guardian that day and what I surmised the following day from the mind speak with the Bigfoot, that I could put it down in a book, but I figured I should put it down more as science fiction, so it's fact fiction. And the funny thing is, when I was writing this book and I was looking for a cover for it, I did this one with AI, but I had done a different cover with an actual Bigfoot print, and I'm going to find it and actually put it up with our next live. And I'm hoping to get this man, I'll call him John, and he's from Eastern Canada, and he was out on a walk with his dogs, and he actually came across Bigfoot, and that's what he called it. I call it the Guardian. And he took a picture of the footprint. And I was fortunate enough through a friend of a friend that he sent me a picture and allowed me to use the footprint. So I'm hoping to be able to get him to come up and speak of his experience. And I'd love to hear of other people's experiences, because I'd like to know, has it changed your life? Do you see things in a different light? Have you gone back in the woods? Myself, where we were in the East, I didn't go into the woods. It wasn't because I was afraid. It was because in that area, there was a lot of people that set traps in the Crown Land, and I didn't want to step on a trap. And we had a lot of ticks. So I didn't want to, if the minute you walked off the property, there was ticks everywhere. So you just had to not do that. I don't know about different areas out here in Alberta, where we go to see the wild horses. It was really strange. We headed to see the wild horses, and that's up by Sundre, and absolutely beautiful. They're wild along the Ghost River. And we took the road the Ghost River runs. I'm not sure of the name of it, but we followed it down and we came out. I believe it's Cochrane. Is it Cochrane? I think it's close to Cochrane that we came out in. And when we took that drive, we had our 3 extra large breed dogs, as we always do with us, in the car. And so we had to stop and take them pee. And it's funny because we seen a sign that said Bigfoot sightings along there. So as we rounded this corner and came down to this middle of nowhere place, we decided there was a parking lot there. We could get out there with the dogs. There's a lot of grizzly bears there, so we had to really be on guard. We got out and we heard one of the strangest noises. So as soon as the dogs were done, they were back in the car. And that's about 350 pounds of dog. And I still wanted to boot it out of there because you just don't know, right? You don't know what the noise was that you were hearing. It was different than the other noise, but it could possibly have been a Bigfoot noise from out here in Alberta. We were right in the Rockies, so just at the foothills, so it's totally possible that that's what it was, but I don't have any factual evidence of that. A lot of people that I've spoken to recently about it, since my novel has come out, have said to me, I heard one, I saw one, I saw a footprint, and they've never spoke about it. And they'll say, well, that was about 15 years ago or 20 years ago. Um, a lot of woodsmen wouldn't go on certain trails in different areas of Quebec. I know that from family members. Uh, they knew better. They stayed out of the woods. Now, I don't believe that the Guardian was preventing them from walking in the woods. What the Guardians were trying to do was to prevent them from pilfering from that area. You know, you look through history and you see they'll just cut down, clear cut a whole forest. We get erosion, we get all kinds of issues, we get droughts, we get floods. Everything is correlated. And the Guardian has tried to prevent so much of that from happening, or extinction of animals that shouldn't be. There's been massive, well, the wolves. At one time, we had different types of cougars down that now they're saying they're actually seeing again in small numbers down in Quebec. And it's unfortunate in Quebec. The wolves, there was a big kill of wolves at one time down there, and there was a big kill of caribou. Like, industry sometimes has enough money, corporations, to get rid of something that's in their way when they want to put up something like oil or natural resources that they want to draw from. It's not that they weren't put there for us to be able to draw from. It's how things are being taken and this how it's destroying things. And that's why they're there. And that's why there's a lot of places, even in Alaska, where logging places where the loggers won't go. They know, they've walked out and said, no. Numerous places people go, I'm not doing it. I'm not going there. It's the fear that they put into the people that they feel that they need to, that are being careless. So I wasn't being careless that early morning when they came to me. And I realize now that the gift that I have and who they are, we're all interconnected. And the fact that I can speak to them and they can speak back to me without using our words, to me, is wonderful. I've done that with a few people with my skills. There's a few other people I can do it with, but doing it with such a phenomenal spiritual being as a guardian is just amazing. So when you're out in the woods and you feel like there's something watching you, there could be. There's a lot of wildlife in the bush. I mean, for many years I lived in Ontario, and I would go through Minising Swamp as a child by myself where I was, and all through, and I never seen anything. And when we first moved to Nova Scotia, I can remember my husband and I driving down the highway that we lived on late at night, coming back from town, and we were in the middle of nowhere. So we'd go for like a grocery run or something, for like once a month to get everything that we needed. And we watched the black bear stand up, look both ways, and walk across the road. That was very common. So I can differentiate between a black bear and a Bigfoot/Guardian. There's no comparison in size. There's no comparison in the physical being. When you look at a bear and how it stands on the side of the road, and you look at how a Bigfoot stands, you cannot mistake one for the other. I think sometimes people have wishful thinking, going, oh, that's just a bear. But, it's not. And the fact is, knowing that I was afraid at first when I heard the sound, because it literally shakes you right down through your bones, that other people are going to experience that too. And if you're in your home and you experience that, what you realize is the thick walls of your house, they're nothing. They're not going to do a thing for you. If she had wanted to come through that house that day, she didn't have to come through a door or a window. She could have just ripped off the side of the house and come in. That's how big they are. You know, the fact that she didn't do that, or the fact that throughout history, numerous people have not had a violent encounter with one. Sometimes I wonder why somebody has a violent encounter. And I think you don't know, you're not looking at everything. You're looking at where the person was that an area of force that they were guarding? Did they not heed the warnings? Were they just going in there to hunt and kill animals that perhaps the guardian felt needed to be protected because there's so few of them? Those are all things you have to think about when you think about a violent encounter, like a gun and a Bigfoot. The gun is going to lose. The Bigfoot will win. So a lot of people that are out there doing research, it's wonderful that they're doing research. I myself not going out in the field to hunt down the Bigfoot. Okay. I don't need to hunt down the guardian to prove that they exist. I had one come to me, and that's good enough. I think that the people that go out there that have never seen one and don't know what they could encounter, to me, that's just wild. I've been around, I've been 4 feet to a bull moose and a cow at the same time and had to hide behind a big boulder with quite a few other people. I've been less than 3 feet with a lynx. I've been right against a black bear. So, yeah, I've been around wildlife, lots of it. I respect it. I'm lucky enough that my father taught me what to do when I encounter something. And, but nobody told me what to do when you encountered the Bigfoot. Okay. And that was the one thing that I found fascinating, is that she knew that she needed to tell me, and she told me. She told me it was okay. Because you're standing in your house going, this is real. Even to me, that was like, wow, like, holy bleep, that was amazing. And at the same time, that was the most frightening experience that I had ever encountered. And had she not been able to communicate with me and been willing to communicate with me, I don't know. I don't know how I would have reacted, but I feel really lucky that I had that encounter. I know there's a lot of other people that have that, and consider it a gift, your encounters. But don't be afraid to speak up about your encounters. First of all, there's no stigma to it. It's recorded throughout history. Finding these facts yesterday on Bigfoot, to me, were fascinating, showing the correlation between the perils in the world. And it's funny, when I wrote my book, that was what I knew that I had to do, was write about the crush of the oligarchs, the greedy billionaires of the world that have done so much damage lately. And that's why they came. They came to stop that. There's so many wonderful people in the world, and then you've got this small group of people that are lucky enough to have billions of dollars. It doesn't matter how hard somebody works for money. It doesn't mean that they're going to equate to billions of dollars. But these people have. And the unfortunate of it is, if you look at all the starving people in the world, and we have billionaires, and those billionaires are not doing enough. They're just not doing enough. They need, and the governments. I was so saddened by some of the people who have come into office in numerous countries. It worries me. It makes a lot of sense as to why the guardians show up and appear. And I believe that we need to change that, where the average person is more the people running the country, more of just regular people running countries. We shouldn't have anything where you've got corporations that have put somebody in place in government to run the government, and so that they can do their damage to the earth. And we all know that's happening. And I mean, as much as some people want to deny it, how can you? How can you when the hurricanes come in so massively? How can you when we have incredible floods and we lose everything? And everything equates to war, oil. Why? When something is a natural resource and in the ground, and so many people who own the rights to this have acquired so much money, so much wealth, billions and billions of dollars, do we still need these arguments over things? We've seen what happened in Hiroshima and Nagasaki with nuclear weaponry. I don't ever want to see that again. And I can't believe that scientists in the world, and I love science. I would have gone into science, in fact. Science was one of my favorite subjects in high school. And I can tell you right now, when I look at a scientist and I see a scientist that works to help with nuclear medicine, that's fantastic. But when I see a scientist making a bomb, no, that's horrible. And that is why the guardians have come. Some people have knowledge, extra knowledge of things. Some people are smarter than other people, and they get jobs in industries like nuclear, and they don't, nuclear facilities in Ontario, they store nuclear waste underground. It's like hiding something under a bed and saying, well, we don't really have to deal with that now. But I always wondered, like in Kirkland Lake, where they store the nuclear waste, what happens if there's an earthquake? What damage is going to be done to the planet? We've got soil. Everything seeps in one way or the other. And what are you affecting? And every time I see this race to arms with these missiles being shot by different countries to tout we've got more power, the honest truth of these leaders of these countries and these oligarchs is they don't have the power. The power comes from our planet that we came from. And our planet put us here. And our guardians are here because people aren't respecting the way that things should be run. They're not respecting the fact that they shouldn't be red rumming people, poisoning people with toxic waste that's out there. And the guardians in the forests are beautiful that they keep. The BC forests, the Alberta forests, they're beautiful. This year we took another drive up to see the wild horses, and unfortunately they've already started the clear cutting up there. So I would say there'll be more sightings there as well, because it's just, we didn't see the horses. They were way from where they were before. And, you have to appreciate the horses. You have to appreciate, like the wild horses, you have to appreciate the trees. They're here to purify the air. You have to appreciate the water. We've got plastic in it. I lived in Nova Scotia. Many of you know the Bay of Fundy. Well, I can remember walking on the shores of the Bay of Fundy and picking up netting and elastic bands that come off the boats. And you have to think for a minute, why don't the fishermen know enough that they are polluting and destroying the environment with plastics and rubbers and throwing it into the water? And so you're naturally going to see occurrences of the guardians coming to try to straighten out these people and the greed that these people have. And there's so many different facets of Bigfoot that I'd like to bring into this, and the mind speak, and um, I'd like to talk to other people who have had incidents, like occurrences, like I have, like an encounter, I mean, like I have with the Bigfoot. I'd like to talk to people who have seen a print, heard a yell. Now, I know there's a lot of people that go out there and do a wood knock, and then they'll hear a wood knock back, and that's very possible. Like, it's highly likely that they are answering you back. You just don't know what you're saying to them when you're knocking. That's my point. So is it smart to knock? It's not like you're knocking on somebody's door, okay? And where I lived, where my husband and I had a home, we had crown land all around us. They called it 100-mile woods. So we were in the boonies, basically. It was beautiful. It was cottage country. There was lakes on the other side of the highway, and there was lakes behind us, and forest everywhere. And for 4 miles, we had no neighbors. And so when I walked outside, I would always think of that question in history. If a tree falls in the forest and nobody's around, do you hear it? Well, I could hear the tree fall, for sure. I could hear the bear roar when they were fighting. I could hear the coyotes. I could also hear the bears slide down the trees, or the coons slide down the trees, or the marten. Like, we had all kinds of wildlife. We had the bobcats come in. We had everything. And so we were used to the sounds of the forest. We were used to everything. That wasn't a sound that I had ever heard before. So that was the first part of my encounter, was the sound. The second part was the sighting and the mind speak. So I consider that a wonderful gift to have been given by the guardian. And it took me a while before I thought, well, am I really going to come up here and talk about it? But I thought, yes, it needs to be talked about, because I'd like to walk with you through many different aspects of it. And you can email me. I'll have my email address put on the screen, so anybody who wants to email me is welcome to email me. And we can, and you can get my book on Amazon. It's in paperback and ebook. It's fiction and fact. I've mixed it together in there. This is the first time I've ever written a novel. I have other books children's books I've written after this, but this was a novel that I wrote. I really felt compelled to this. And the funny thing was, this was really easy for me to write. It was like she had given me the way to write it, and I just put it into a story and I wrote it. So I loved that. Email address. So my email address is on there if anybody's interested in contacting me. And my channel is Sher the Shadow Walker. There we go. So if you want to contact me, that's wonderful. And if you want to come up on a live and we can talk about Bigfoot, if you don't want to put your face on the screen, or you don't want to use your name, my email address is down there. Just email me first, and we'll do it that way. Your voice can be on there if you want, or you can just send me a piece of what occurred, and we'll talk about it. But there's no shame if you don't want to show your face. There's a lot of people in business and stuff who don't want to show their face that have seen a Bigfoot because of the stigma. But it's not something you need to be ashamed of. It's something you need to be proud of. So I thought I'd come on tonight for an hour and we'd chat about it, and see if anybody else had an encounter. And my next live, I'd like to have some people come up and talk about their experiences, so we could have more people. And I will do a few on spirits and ghosts. So you can let me know if you'd rather I did one on spirits and ghosts. I've cleared houses, I've tackled demons, I've done everything. Um, it's normal for me. I grew up this way. It was normal for my kids. My oldest son was with me and seen a ghost in the house. Um, it's just normal. It's totally normal. One of my children has abilities. I think all three of them have some, but one of them has more. So, and that's their choice whether they want to come forward or not. A lot of people don't. I have been in numerous areas where there's a lot of religion, and I don't want to operate in those type of areas because they seem to have a lot of negativity towards somebody like me. But I've done a lot of things. I've helped people find things. I've spoke to people in regards to murders in their family and given them facts that they didn't know how I knew. And frankly, it just comes across like a screen. It's like I'm watching a film, and I just tell them what I see. I don't add anything into it. There's no need to. And generally, like if I do a reading on somebody, I'll tell them, I don't want to know your name, and I don't want you to ask me any questions or tell me anything ahead of time. And if you have questions for me, you can ask me at the end. And by the end, they generally don't have any questions. So I love doing that. And I loved my encounter with the guardian. The I mean, I was scared, but I feel very fortunate. The Bigfoot has, throughout history, shown us itself all over the world. And so, if anybody wanted to dispute something, there's no way that somebody in China or in Russia that experienced a Bigfoot sighting or a mind speak and had it recorded, how they knew somebody else across the world far before internet had one recorded as well. So you know that it's not a lie. You know that it's the truth. It's a little like a lot to swallow when you think of what's out there. Um, I was never uncomfortable living out there after that. I knew that she was around, but there was it wasn't any different than the rest of the wildlife and things that were I knew everything that was around. And like anything, you respect nature, and and that's a guardian of nature, and it's a guardian of our planet. And it's a fascinating thing to think that so many people, just like you look in North America, how many people have seen one? How many people have had mind speak, excuse me, with one? How many people in the world have had, like, yeah, there's officially on record, there is 5,000 sightings recorded. And that's from since the mid 1900s. And I'm sure, like anything else, a lot of people debunk. Like they'll go out there and they'll say, no, you seen a bear. But no, it wasn't a bear. I didn't see a bear that day. Bears aren't that tall. Bears don't look like that. And bears don't speak to you like that. So, yeah, that's about all I can think of right now. So if anybody has any other questions, the forest around me wasn't disturbed a lot, other than it had been logged, I believe, 20 to 20 some years prior to us living there. So there was some pretty big trees there when we got there. There had been a fire when we originally got there. And, but I never seen anything then, or she never came then. And there was, yeah, because there was a big fire down that way, huge fire. In fact, when we bought our home, the whole forest around was on fire, and we weren't sure whether the house was going to burn down or not. But the you know, it's just carelessness from people. When that fire started, it was carelessness. And at my age now, in my 60s, like the years on this planet, and I can remember hot summers, I can remember storms, the odd violent one. But I mean, one of the big ones in Canada, I think, would be like Hurricane Hazel, you know. But we didn't have any other massive hurricanes like that that kept coming back to back to back to back. And now you get hurricane season, but you could get like so many of them back to back that, you know, when I remember watching in the States where all those people lost their lives in the flooding, and in Florida, just the disaster, or in the Carolinas, like just to see the disaster, or in some of the beautiful islands, you know, just how things are destroyed now. And I like weather, so when I look at the weather, I'm always looking at the radar, and I'm always looking at hurricanes, and I look at, ooh, there's a lot of that coming in, you know, like there's a lot more than there used to be. And where we are now in the summertime, it's just so hot. You can't enjoy it. And the wildfire smoke, when I was young, we didn't have that. We just didn't have that. I can't imagine what that's doing to our children's lungs. So I think the Guardian has come forth to ask that common sense is used on how everything is cared for in the natural resources. And you've got to look at the corporate greed, and that has to stop. And the oligarchs, you know what? You have enough money. Go sit in the corner. You don't need to run anything, and you don't need, because you don't run anything now. You run everything down. You're destroying everything for other people. There's no need for a famine in the world with all the rich people that are here. There's just none. There's no need for it. There's no need for all these horrible drugs that I think living, and I have lived right across Canada. We've traveled Canada extensively. We've lived all over. And when I look at Canada, I see now so many areas that are destroyed by math, as they say. And so many children that are missing or have lost their lives, parents that are on math, and so many young people that lose their lives on math. And you wonder, somebody put that out there and somebody's making money off that. And that's corporate greed. That's greed. That's a corporation. It doesn't matter whether it's a criminal organization or whether it's a company, you know, with a name brand logo that people wear on their shirt. If they're destroying people, or you're destroying the world, you're destroying everything. Like, you can't expect your product to survive if you destroy all the people who use your product. And when I look at what's happening now, that's what I see. We're losing so many people to overdoses. And I felt from the Guardian a sadness because of the state of the world. And for a superior being to have that type of sadness, it humbled me. And we all need to be humbled by the fact that we live on a beautiful planet, and that every person's life matters, and that we should take care of each other and deal with the issues at hand that are out there that are destroying the people and the planet, and not lie about it, because it's not doing anybody any good. So the next show that I think that I will do will be in a day or two. I was thinking of doing one on a dog man. I've never seen one. I know there's been a lot of sightings down in New Brunswick, some in Nova Scotia, out here. I've heard there's been sightings out here. Um, yeah, we haven't seen anything out here or heard anything out here other than that really weird howl that day. And for me, I like to be able to see something to say, yes, it's there or it's not there. So the scientific part of me, having her come to me, the guardian, and seeing her and knowing that that was an actual gift given to me, that sighting, I understand that there are Bigfoots, guardians. Like, I understand that now. And, I never really thought much of it before. And the funny thing is, I didn't know at that time that I had that sighting, that I was actually Métis from the Mi'kmaq, and that Grand Chief Membetu is my ancestral grandfather. And the funny thing about that is, my grandfather on my mother's side looks identical to Membetu. And Membetu was recorded to have the same gift that I have. And I always wondered where it came from. And I didn't know that till 6 years ago, where it came from. And I didn't know that I was Métis. So I believe when my guardian came to me, our guardian of the world, that she must have known that I was Mi'kmaq. She never said that to me, but she must have known. And I do believe that there is a direct correlation between the original people of this land, I don't use the word First Nations, I just say the original people. And I believe that the people that were here long ago have seen the guardians and never spoken about it, but had an unspoken rule that said you don't follow them, you don't hunt them, and that they are here and they work with us. And in many places in North America, it's been recorded that they have in years ago worked with the people of the land. So I think maybe someday they will work again with us. Are we there yet? No. I call this the stupid stage. We've lived through many years now, over 60, and I look at them and I think, when you look back, you see the differences in everything that's occurred and how the greed has taken over. So I firmly believe there will be more sightings. And I think that things here will change in the world because of it. And I think that a lot of people that have sightings feel the same way. It kind of grounds you to the earth a bit more. And it makes you feel like nature matters. Nature and you are one, more than what you're seeing out there. It's like you're in a city, you don't really realize it. But when you're in the country and you look at a beautiful forest of trees and you look at how dry things are now and how many fires there are, it's sad. Like, we know here in March, April, and May, we may have some nice weather in Alberta, but we know that we're going to be bombarded with smoke. And the first year I came here, we didn't have that 6 years ago, right? We didn't have smoke. Smoke has come up like crazy now. And there's more cases of things like brain tumors happening. And you hear about smoke and you hear about, well, is smoke the cause of it? They're talking about that now. And so everything in our environment is having an effect on us, and we're losing people. We've lost friends that we have to brain tumors. There seems to be a lot more of them now than there used to be. so many different types of cancers and so many different things that shouldn't be there, just shouldn't be there. I do believe that there's a lot of more sightings out there than people have said. Just like they say, 50 to 100 for every sighting that there is. And that's because we never spoke of it. Because when you own a home, you don't want to say, hey, we can see a guardian over here. We seen a Bigfoot. People aren't going to want to buy that house. So those are all the things you think of as a homeowner. And like when you walk in the forest and, and you're just out for a walk, or you're a hunter or something, and you see something like that. What I've heard from people that have spoken to me about it recently, they say it changed their life and they changed their way of doing things. A lot of those men don't hunt anymore, and a lot of the people that walk into the forest only go, well, some of them don't go anymore, but some of them only go to a certain area of the forest, and they won't go back to that area. And that makes total sense to me, because I believe that's what that's the message that they're giving, that this is the area we wish to protect. There's a reason for this. People here don't see it. But if they're telling us that that area of forest is something that needs to be protected, you need to respect those words. So in all the areas where people have seen whatever you want to call the guardian, the Bigfoot, a Sasquatch, a Yeti, a Yowie, a hairy man, I think one of my favorites was, one of the original names was Jacko, which was in Yale, BC in 1848. And I think that type of, when you hear the names, you think, well, people have been talking about them for centuries and they're everywhere. And so, yeah. And so why are we seeing more of them? Ask yourself that. We need that. There is a truth to what they say about the backward tracks that they make, and that gives a supernatural protection. There is truth to the saying that because they say that it'll confuse a tracker. Probably, but I think a lot of trackers won't track a Bigfoot. Anybody with common sense, or anybody that's seen one, I can't see really why they're going out there tracking them. It's not from here when you see it. That it has superiority, not just because of the physical size of it, but the mental mind state of it. It can disappear in an instant. It can reappear. It can pull a tree out of the ground if it wants to. It could come through a house if it wants to. So if it's not doing those things, why are you out there hunting it? You have to think about that for a minute. Why do you need? I know a lot of people are curious, and it's wonderful if you just go out and enjoy nature and you have an experience and you come home, you can consider that a gift, and know that you've respected their boundaries because you left when they asked you to. That's the one thing. When you see one, you need to realize that you need to respect the boundaries and go back. There's a reason for that. So I think that's about all I have for tonight. And so I'm going to end this chat. And I thank anybody that came into the chat to have a talk. And I will look forward to another live with you probably tomorrow night. So the 3rd or the 4th, I'll post it. And I thank you so much. And remember, I'm Sher, the Shadow Walker, and my book is Bigfoot, My Guardian. It's available on Amazon, and it's available in ebook with this nice little shiny book. And yeah, so it's a good read if you want to buy one or you want to. That's wonderful. Thank you very much. And thank you very much for stopping by. Good night.